Hello and welcome to the Let That Shift Go podcast. I'm Noel.
And I'm Lena.
And this is where we talk about the good, the bad, and all the shift in between.
We'll just talk mad shift.
Let's get into it.
And on this week's episode, we're going to talk about not letting the holidays go to shift. Trying to avoid those hard topics and tough conversations that create
distance
and
drama.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How do we navigate it? You're not alone.
Yeah.
Well, many of us are having these thoughts and anxieties, about going into the holiday season. But today we have a very special guest on, Danny DeMaio.
Danny DeMaio is here with us.
He is a musician. He is a writer. He's also an amazing son-in-law to my daughter, Tatiana. They happen to be visiting, and we convinced him to come on our podcast today and talk about things that are alive for us. And so this was a hot topic and something I think many of us are navigating. And maybe something in here can be of help to you, and at least let you know you're not alone. This is, a lot of us are navigating difficult conversations and encounters during the holidays as we're going into Thanksgiving this week.
Holidays are here.
Yeah, right? And the holidays bring joy, but they also bring Uncle Joy's endless political rants. So let's be real. Family gatherings can be a minefield of opposing opinions, unspoken resentments, or just plain awkwardness. So we want to offer some tools to navigate these moments with curiosity and with self-awareness.
Yeah, so let's get into this because I think we all kind of, as a whole, I think families tend to gather grains of sand of anger and resentment and save them for these big holiday parties at the end of the year and beat each other up with big, heavy sandbags.
Yeah.
I think part of the thing is kind of thinking about those things that come up or any resentments that we have towards each other to lessen the fuel to maybe some of these topics that may not even be the exact issue that we have with family members, but they tend to add some spice and less levity to these hard conversations or these topics that come up at these family situations.
Yeah. Danny, what do you think?
I think that's... Well, first of all, thanks for having me. It didn't take much convincing, but I think that's so true. It's very interesting the way she actually explained little grains of salt, sand, and then you put them in a bag because they've just built up, and then now it becomes this weapon that families can use against each other.
Yeah.
I have a lot of personal experience with it. And it's interesting, when you're a kid and you don't have any context for what's happening in the adults' lives of your family until you get to be 16, 17, 18, you start to have more recognition of how the family dynamics work.
Yeah.
So for that, you're just like a kid playing with your cousins or whatever you're doing. But there's deep political divisions in my immediate family and family in general, extended. And it's a whole spectrum. It's not just 10 people on this side and 10 people on this side. There's everything in between. So people that are your allies sometimes on things are not your allies other times. And you can't really depend on that. But especially now not being close proximity, us living out of state. And so we're coming here for mainly holidays. There's not the buffer of the small, let's just grab lunch. Let's just grab
little opportunities to vent or opportunities to talk or connect on other things. Now it's we're just seeing you right now.
Totally. And the pressure of that is just so immense that I think the expectation is for certain family members, if it's not perfect, it's going to be a failure. And yet somehow at the same time in those moments, they find a way to make it more awkward when they should just enjoy the moment.
You think because you're having this really need for it to be perfect, that it just makes it to where you're looking for all the ways it's not.
So much so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that goes both ways. I think as much as I'm probably doing that because I'm expecting the worst.
Yeah.
In those situations. And
do you think that adds to the dynamic coming in feeling like something bad's going to happen?
Yes, for sure. And I have to own, as that person, you have to own what your responsibility is in that.
Yeah.
But also you have to remember you didn't do that on your own.
Yeah.
You learned that And
that's the family dynamics.
It's a family dynamic.
And that pressure to maintain harmony, but then you're also dealing with family dynamics.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the thing too, there was I remember seeing a post recently by Andrew Huberman, and he did this experiment where he was like, okay, I want you to look around the room. Or no, it was not Andrew Huberman. It was Tony Robbins. I want you to look around the room. Okay, now look around the room and I want you to notice everything that's blue. So you take a minute, you look around the room, you're like, all right, everything that's blue. Okay, now close your eyes and tell me everything you saw that was red.
Yeah.
And you can't find it. But if your mind is already going in looking for all the things there's the awkwardness, there's that comment that you made, then your brain is like almost trained to just find it and look for it. And on both sides, where this is where it's not perfect. Oh my gosh, that's where. So it's really looking at, maybe bringing some consciousness around how you're showing up. What are the things that you're anticipating, negative, positive, and how are you going to contribute to that then?
Yeah, no, I remember you told me that thought experiment before, and it stuck with me. That's such an interesting and such an apt way of like looking at any problem, but especially like or challenge.
Yeah.
But like a challenge, like even within your own family, because I think when you are able to stick to the more human moments, that are like removed from politics or social issues, or even just like the way you choose to live your life, and it's just like the things that we all do. Everyone has to go to the grocery store. Everyone has to do these things, and you're like connecting on just being a human being and being, like sometimes it can feel too mundane, but also that could be a way to like open up into things,
like a bridge
to things that like, oh, you do that too? Oh, okay. Like
finding the ways you connect rather than the ways that you're divided.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. It's a constantly evolving like organism, like just family in general. So what was a cause of friction like the year before is now like it's hidden or it's gone or maybe it solved itself, but then there's always things that you're having to, I don't know, like it seems like maybe I'm probably a pretty defensive person.
Do you think so?
I don't think like I'm not aggressive.
No.
And I'm pretty quiet, but like I am constantly thinking about all the scenarios that could happen and how I'm going to be able to navigate them, and that probably does take away from like some of the immediate joy of being with people that I don't necessarily feel always trustful of.
Okay.
So it's tricky. Like I know that that's like on me, but like,
well, it's an adaptation.
Right.
I feel like my conversations go sideways when I end up trying to defend myself.
Yeah.
Like, do you have an example of like something where like,
I don't know, like in any of these scenarios where we have conversations with family, I feel like I'm almost on guard. So I'm perceiving things as attacks.
So you're already looking for, I have to defend
like what
myself.
you're saying, like look for the blue and look for the red. I'm already looking for the attacks, and I'm just feeling on the defensive right away. And so when I'm responding, if I'm defending myself, I'm automatically getting myself deper into trouble.
Yeah.
I don't even think I should be defending most things when it comes to like these types of.
It's like winning, you want to win that conversation, especially if you're trying to defend yourself. There's like a need to win this. And instead of just understanding. So that's the difference. There's no curiosity. Like, I wonder, why do you think that? Or why did you say that? And that's, I think, but if you're looking for the ways that you're going to have to defend yourself, you're not in a position to be curious about what's happening.
Yeah. And that's something like both of what you said, like, that seems like something that I know inherently is something to do. Like, for instance, like don't defend yourself, just like kind of like roll with whatever it is, and also be curious. But I think it's easy, and
it's easy to say.
Oh yeah, totally. And I'm sure it's also easy for other people who are going through the same thing. Is like, it's like the moment, and it happens in movies all the time. But I think it's a reflection of being a human being. Is you're in a conversation, someone says something that's offensive, you're so caught off guard that then you go home and you're in the shower and you're like, I should have said this. You know what I mean?
Oh man, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And so then the next, you're almost like looking forward to the next time that you're in that person's presence.
Like you're preloaded.
Yeah, no, and I get into it like when someone really gets underneath my skin, or someone that I really love, especially, and I'm like, why do we do this to each other? I like extra will be on guard and be thinking about like, if this gets brought up, this will be a good thing to say. When in reality, to especially what you just said, Lena, like someone says something, being curious and saying, why do you believe that? That is almost like the ultimate, this is a loaded word, trump card anyway.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, I could see that.
Just because you're like, no, I'm curious, but I also am asking you now now you have to defend yourself why you would say something that is
and it's that is loaded.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of find like
because now they're defending.
Yes. Yeah.
Sometimes some of these topics, like getting back into trying to get a question answered, sometimes you have to be okay with not knowing, you know what I mean? Getting back at it. But I think one of the things that I've used trying to get to know some of my family members or trying to get a closer relationship with them is just, instead of trying to get answers to the specific topic or why they did or didn't do something, really just getting to know who they are as a person, asking them more depth about, because most times we don't really know our family members in a way that really explains and gives context of maybe why they make the choices that they make. And I find, rather than having a discussion or trying to convince somebody about why they needed to believe like me, I'm more interested in finding out why they believe that the way they are. Why are they the way they are? And usually if we get some context and some of the tapestry of their life, how they grew up, that may lead us to understand their viewpoint better, as opposed to getting into this big political discussion or something like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think
there's more fruit on that tree.
Yes.
Yeah. I think listening to both of you, especially when you said that's a loaded question, you're absolutely right. And especially if you're, asking somebody about their political views, it's like, I can't wait to tell you why. And then you're like, dang, I was doing so good. And now I'm going to lose it. I'm going to lose it. And there's no opportunity to connect. So that's a hard one to navigate. And maybe it's not, I don't need to know why you believe this or that, but it may be finding what is the intention for your connect? Like, do you want to connect with them, or do you want to, find out more about why they believe this, about that you don't? And maybe that is going to be a loaded area that doesn't lead to anywhere positive. So if you're going into a family gathering and maybe you set an intention, like, I really intend to just connect with people, connect with my family. And that probably won't include a discussion about this, especially right now with political views.
Yeah. Setting boundaries. That's it.
Yeah.
For yourself.
Like, find the things like you were saying, like, we both buy groceries. Okay. But what are some other things that you like about them? Like, what are they interested in? Ask them about what they're interested in and give them an opportunity to just talk about things that are positive. But it's going to take probably at least one person in that conversation to be intentionally guiding the conversation into a place that leads to connection rather than division.
Right.
Yeah,
someone has to start being that bigger person first.
Yeah. There's somebody who's got to be going conscious about it. Like, going like, this is what I'm doing. I really want to do that. I really want to ask questions or, find ways to connect with them that are something that builds a bridge rather than burns it down.
Yeah, we're supposed to be exchanging gifts, not sandbags.
Totally. No.
Yeah, and not wanting to convince. I think that's a thing too, like being, on the offense or the defense. It's like, do you feel like there's a need to convince someone of the way you believe versus them? And that's never going to lead to somewhere positive, probably.
Yeah. And
especially not on Thanksgiving.
No. When really the people are just wanting to hang out and relax and have some turkey or whatever, whatever it is, the thing that you're eating. But it is such an interesting, like, exploration of, like, family. But at the same time, I do feel like going with like a positive intention obviously is going to be beneficial for everyone. I think the thing that still can throw the situation off, and maybe that y'all can jump in here and offer some context, but like from your own experiences, but you go in with a positive intention, and then someone is almost like on a warpath and they ruffle feathers, almost like there always seems to be like an instigator, and that can be like a really challenging thing when you're trying to be calm and you're trying to make the most of a situation, but you also can't get up and leave.
Well, you're trapped.
Yeah. And of course you can get up and leave, but like it's Thanksgiving and there are reasons why we don't do that. But I think that's the most challenging thing for me.
I look at it as like, well, at least I'm not the asshole at this party.
That's true. I mean,
so somebody else stepped up.
Someone's filled that role for today.
I don't have to be that. I can be quiet.
I think this is about changing my perspective because that's a really great point. I'm always thinking I have to like come in and save the day or something like that. Yeah.
There's some suggestions. Okay, so here's some tips for navigating hard conversations. And I think these are pretty good. Ask, don't argue. Okay, obviously. But one of the ones I like is validate without agreeing, right? Because that's one thing we all want. We all want to be validated. Like that's like a human need in some way, right? Whether we're conscious of it or not. So validating without agreeing is just like, that can be as simple as, I can see why that's important to you.
I was actually literally going to say, what does that look like?
I can see why. Yeah.
Right.
I like practical tips.
Yeah.
So write these ones down. I can see why that's important to you.
Yeah.
You know, there was a Kyle Cease. He's one of these speakers, and he did a whole holiday edition video series about going and visiting your family. And, you know, he's a comedian. And one of the things he suggested saying was, I love that for you. But now it sounds kind of sarcastic. Mm-hmm. So it's like, maybe I don't use that. But instead of like, yeah, I love that for you. I can see why that's important to you.
I think for a certain generation, it's sarcastic. So for most of the people I'm speaking to, that's perfect because they won't know it's tinged with a bit of sarcasm. Yeah. But I will know that it is.
I can see why that's important to you. I love that for you. It doesn't mean that you agree. Mm-hmm. It just means you're kind of stopping that, you know, any avenue that's going to lead into negativity. The other one is stay regulated. You know, regulate your nervous system. Like go back, like we always talk about your breath. Start to breathe in through your nose, into your belly. Regulate your nervous system. Let that little demon calm down.
Yeah, checking in with yourself.
Check in with yourself. Check your breath.
Make sure you ain't hangry. Eat.
Yep.
That too.
And then a simple mantra, right? Before you go in, when you're in the car, do a little breath regulation and get a mantra. I don't need to control this. I can stay calm. Because is there a part of you that wants to control the conversation? You know, and being aware of that and thinking like, I don't need to. This will cost me more, you know, to try to guide it and like convince you of my way than to just say, yeah, I don't need to control this. I can just stay calm. That's actually my peace. That's my power right there.
Right.
So maybe those simple terms like, I can see why that's important to you.
I'm going to take this.
You're going to take all of them. Or I like this one. Not every comment needs a response. Then just share the phrase, you might be right. That's it. You know what? You might be right. And then they're like, what? I'm going to go get some eggnog. You might be right.
Well, if you can't admit that you could possibly, you know, I could be wrong. That's another thing I've heard people say. Because if you can never admit in a relationship where you're trying to validate each other or give some space for that, being able to say, I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Gives that little bit of grace, because if you can't say I could be wrong, you will never say I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And that leaves no room in a conversation. So for somebody to feel safe enough to move forward in the conversation.
But you're going to have to put your ego down and check.
Oh, yeah.
You know, to say I could be wrong because you're like, but I know I'm not, you know. But it's like, what do you want? You got to go back to your intention. What is your intention for the conversation? Is it connection? Is it peace? Because I could be wrong is leading you more to that than let me tell you why you're wrong, you know, or that's not right. I believe you're not going where you intended to go. So coming back to an intention before you go into the situation of like, when I leave here tonight, what do I want to feel?
Right.
Right. And so every time you're going to start a conversation or enter into one or end one is that leading me where I said I wanted to go?
Yeah. No, that's great. It's almost like if you're at a Thanksgiving dinner for 5 hours, it's almost like a 5-hour meditation. Like it's like long distance meditation because you have to be so focused on what your ultimate goal is or what you're focused on.
Yeah. What is my role here today?
Yeah. Right.
What is my role here today?
It's not the fixer.
I
mean, that's the thing is
it should be the listener.
Right. Right. And that thing is that's such a shift.
It is
for me is doing that
Not being the fixer.
And also like having that intention, like what am I here to do today, and sticking with that. And that's such a
maybe the goal for this year's. I can go into this year's Thanksgiving thinking this year I'm just going to be the listener, because I usually come in trying to be the fixer of things. So what if I went in with the total opposite goal of this year I'm just going to go to listen.
Yeah, I like I'm just going to be the observer.
Yeah.
I'm just going to watch this crazy movie play out right in front of me and just notice it.
I've been trying to cultivate the fucks given, but I haven't gotten any. So I'm going to cultivate the observer to maybe harvest some fucks to be given.
Right. No, I mean, and like that levity aside, like really, like I don't know why it is such, and I won't speak for either one of you, but why it is such a knee-jerk reaction for so many of us to want to be heard or be the fixer or
to be right
about things instead of just listening. And I feel like, I don't know if that's so many other people are talking in the room and you feel like you have to also be heard or whatever that is. But that's like, there's no rule book that says you have to be a part of that.
What do you think that is like for you? Do you feel like it brings up something old?
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, I'm the blood only child, but I have 2 step siblings, and so I grew up with them for so long, and I think like I never felt like not seen as a kid, but I think getting older, it's the idea that I didn't grow up. Like I'm still being treated the same as I was as a child.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like
I'm not a kid anymore.
Yeah, it's like the old adage of like, when you're my age, you'll think of the world this way, and like that's never happened.
And you're like, guess what? I'm your age now, and I still don't think of the world this way.
Exactly.
And I need you to know.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly it. And I think that's on me. That's my ego getting the better of me of like planting my flag in the ground, so to speak. Of like, this is like who I am. This is like my identity. But
see me, hear me.
Exactly. And I think there is good reason for that, but to both of your guys' points, I think you've made great points of like, that's not your job to do that. Like whether you say nothing at all at this or whether you are the asshole at the party, you're still going to be who you are when you walk out that door and it's over. No one there is going to change you. And I think that,
knowing that,
or maybe not change you, but like this, you can be wrong, but your identity of whoever you are is not going to be different when you leave that place, except for maybe being the jerk.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's like when I think about that and thinking about, okay, this like younger version of you that was like, told, hey, when you're our age, then you'll know. And that's frustrating, especially for that kid, who's now not a kid anymore and doesn't think that way. And I need you to know this is like, to maybe go back to that little kid and be like, hey, you know what? They're just doing the best they can. And you do know a lot and you'll know even more. And it's okay. They can think whatever they want. It doesn't change who you are. You're smart. You're, all those things. Like what is that version of you need to hear that you're not going to hear in that room?
Yeah.
So that when he shows up, he's like, yeah, I don't really, it doesn't matter what you, you know what I mean?
Right.
What you think. Like, I know that I'm smart. I know that my opinion is worthy of being heard.
Does it get easier?
You know what it does? It just takes practice. And guess what? Holidays are such a great time to practice. It's like going into like finals,
Yeah.
All the tests are coming. You're like, dang it. Like, I'm healed. I've been doing so much work. And then you go to the holidays and it's like, oh shit, I'm not. Still have so much work. But if you look at it like this is a classroom and you're going into this like high intensity lesson, how could you show up conscious and aware of what that you're going to navigate and be able to do it in a way that you choose, that you're proud of, and that's different. So just even having the thought that my intention is I'm going to do this different, but it also involves healing the parts of you that are showing up wounded and that then make us act in a way that like adult us are not proud of, but it's like 7-year-old us is showing up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to have that self-conviction of like, I know who I am, and whatever people's thoughts are at this table is not who really, not me.
Yeah. And Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's almost none of my business what their thoughts are about who I am.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's that's such a great quote, and we've, and also like another, like I've spoken to Tatiana about this, but there's like also that other quote. It's like, why do you care that everyone likes you? You don't even like everyone. And I've told Todd this before. I'm like, this is so true. I don't like. Why do I feel like everyone has to like me?
Yeah.
Or like I have to be heard or understood, and especially with family, like it becomes a tricky thing where like, because I think culture tells you that you have to be the closest to them because they're your blood, and I think that obviously in an ideal situation that's totally true. But yeah, it's
like the harmony. You have to keep harmony. You got to maintain this at all costs, but it's costing you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I'm sure it's gotten easier without knowing it. It's kind of like you just build up it's like building up a tolerance to anything and you don't notice it because you're just building it up slowly. But yeah, that's why I asked you. I was like, does it get easier? But you guys, you both have, Steve.
I think it's a constant dynamic. If, growing up in a house with emotionally unavailable parents kind of puts you on a path to, trying to feel out situations and emotionally regulate your parents,
like
hypervigilance, and you're trying to fix situations, and you grow up into adulthood, and now you're getting into these situations with these big family parties, and if you're still operating in a sense where you're not having connection and vulnerable conversations and able to deal with things day to day without building up this sandbag full of things, if you're not able to kind of deal with the things over the months that lead up to these, by the end of the year, you're going to come out with this huge sandbag full of stuff.
Yeah.
So, having the reason why I think it gets easier is because over this last couple of years, at least for myself, my experience has been is the more open and upfront I am with myself, the easier things are at the end of the year because I haven't been building those things and not talking about them.
Yeah. You're not on overload.
Yeah, I'm not on overload. And I haven't been waiting all year to have this conversation with this person because I've been having them throughout the year.
With that person.
With whoever.
Okay.
And I think because I think family time, it's important to have that family time and make that for connection. But I think because these are all these people that we're forced to be with, we choose those times to show our vulnerabilities, but sometimes that explodes in our face because we want to be heard at these things. And, politics and all these things are going to come up, and we may use those things as ways to feel heard, but that's not really the thing that needs.
It's not going to lead to probably connection.
It's not even the real issue.
Honestly,
the issue is like we want to be heard, and we're using politics to make that feel heard in some ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Or we tend to talk about things that are dramatic. And this is one of the most dramatic topics right now. I mean, it's we're all kind of wired that way. Like, do you hear about this?
Right.
We don't go, hey, what'd you get at the grocery store the other day? Or how's your dog?
Right.
We're kind of, a lot of us are wired to kind of lead into the dramatic conversations because they're more exciting, but oftentimes for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is something that makes it easier, not just holidays, but I would use this technique is thinking about how, we've probably talked about before, like think of your energy. You think of the energy that you're spending. And when you get up that morning, you get a wad of cash. And that cash is the energy that you could use for the entire day. That's it. Once you run out, you don't have any more, which literally you'll feel depleted, right? Is you're going to go into this gathering and think, all right, I only got $20 of energy. So how much am I going to spend on that comment? Mm-hmm. Think about it, give it like 50 cents. Yeah. So you get to decide, what are you going to spend that energy on? Are you going to give it like all of it? You're going to just blow all of it in one conversation and then you're just completely out, is to just be mindful. That's your most important currency is your energy. So how do you want to use it? But one of the ways that you're going to be able to do that is like, think about if you're going to go and thinking about how much you're going to spend on something, you got to think about what was your intention in the first place? Like what, that intention of how you want the conversations to go. Do you want them to lead to connection? Do you want to come out and feel good about how you reacted or didn't react, or how you, made someone feel important, and how you felt about yourself afterward? Those are the things, if you can set those intentions, then you know where you're going to spend your currency of your energy and just let that lead, each of those decisions with those conversations. But what do you think? What are the things you're like, I don't know, moving into the next few weeks? of, the holidays is the things that you think will be useful to you to use to go into these situations?
Literally everything you both said. I like coming into this conversation, like I knew almost like intuitively I know these things are the way you navigate this, but like that's not how I've been wired of late.
Yeah.
And so hearing you both talk has been helpful because it's like a reset of how to go into these situations as opposed to
just going in
armored up, like
you're
just like, how like I'll take your punches or whatever, and then I'll give them back, and like that's not a way to go in.
No,
the relationship anyway.
Or walking in looking for that blue room, or you know what I mean, looking for the
looking for the red.
You're gonna find what you're looking for. If you're looking for conflict, you're gonna find it. But if you're looking for connection, you can also find that.
Totally.
Yep. Absolutely.
And choose your battles.
What is it? Remember that one thing, that one phrase. I can see why that's important to you.
Yeah.
I love that for you.
Yeah.
I love that for you.
I mean, you could literally put that. That's like what you say at the end of every fortune cookie or something. You know what I mean? It's like you could put that at the end of any sentence that somebody says to you, and they'll be like, "Wow, they really are good listeners."
Right.
Yep.
You become the empathetic, person.
Yeah, and you're not absorbing anything.
No.
In fact, you're like, "Look at it, I did so well."
Yeah. I'll definitely be talking to both of you afterwards.
You don't have to agree with the person. You know, I think, understanding but not agreeing. Is a thing.
Yeah.
Because everybody has their own thoughts, wants, and needs, and everybody's doing their best with their own life experience and trying to do the best they can. And they're not necessarily against me, but for some reason, I take these things personal when I go to these, gatherings. But whatever these people do and say tells me nothing about me. Mm-hmm. It only tells me about them. It tells me about them. Yes. And that's probably the biggest thing, to take from it is that whatever these people are doing and saying is telling you more about what's going on with them. And that's an opportunity for you to learn and grow and have a connection and figure out what's going on with them.
And maybe find some compassion, for whatever it is they're going through. Like that must feel pretty miserable, whatever that is going on over there. Right. It has nothing to do with me, compassion. So, Danny, anything else that you want to add?
No, thanks for having me on. Honestly, I feel like I actually reset and learned a few things that I'd either forgotten or are brand new to me. So
maybe we'll recheck with Danny after the holidays and see how it went.
We're going to have to do a follow-up episode, part 2, how this went.
I'll tell you how many dollars I spent.
You're like, I'm out of 20s already.
I got a 5-hour, gathering. I'm only using $10 per hour. How am I going to make this last?
You'll notice how you feel when you get home. You're like, I still got energy.
That's true. Yeah.
And if you do, then you did well. Like, I still have some energy. I don't have to go right to bed.
Yeah. I can always tell like how tightly I'm gripping the steering wheel on the drive home.
How quiet it is.
How quiet it is.
All right. Well, for this holiday season, try letting go of the need to be right. Mm-hmm. Let that shift go and see what happens when you show up with curiosity instead.
Perfect.
All right. That's been another episode of Let That Shift Go podcast. I'm Noel.
And I'm Lena. Let us know what your questions are, and we'd love to use them on a future episode. Or check us out on Insta at Let That Shift Go, or visit our website, serenitycovetemecula.com.